Conneaut Lake Park is a summer amusement resort, located in Conneaut Lake, Pennsylvania, USA. It has long served as a regional tourist destination, and is noted by roller coaster enthusiasts for its classic Blue Streak coaster, which was recently classified as historic by the American Coaster Enthusiasts Group. Conneaut Lake is Pennsylvania's largest natural lake and is a popular summer resort for recreational boaters due to there being no horsepower limit on the lake. History Exposition Park Conneaut Lake Park was founded in 1892 as Exposition Park by Colonel Frank Mantor as a permanent fairground and exposition for livestock, machinery, and industrial products from western Pennsylvania. Prior to this time, 7 acres of land on which the park is located were purchased in 1877 by Aeron Lines for use as a boat landing. Colonel Mantor's company, the Conneaut Lake Exposition Company, purchased an additional 175 acres of adjacent land, 75 of which were given to Mr. Lines as payment for his parcel. During its early years, buildings at Exposition Park included a dance hall, a convention hall, and a bathhouse. Several of the structures from Lines's landing were also retained as well as a farmhouse on the property that was converted to a hotel. The park's first mechanical ride, a carousel, opened in 1899, and was soon joined by other rides and a midway. Ownership of the park transferred to the Pittsburgh and Shenango Valley Railroad in 1901, during which time several hotels were built on the property. Originally accessible only by boat or train, trolley service was extended to the park in 1907. With its lakefront presence, hotels, and remote location, the park became a popular resort destination. Although many of the park's original buildings were lost in a 1908 fire, new concrete block replacements were constructed, including the Dreamland Ballroom. Name change and growth The park was renamed Conneaut Lake Park in 1920 to reflect a move toward more amusements and rides. Rides added over these years included a tumble-bug, bumper car ride, and a figure-8 roller coaster. In 1938, the park's signature roller coaster, the Blue Streak, was added. In 1943, a large portion of the Hotel Conneaut was destroyed in a fire. The ghost of Elizabeth, a bride who supposedly died in the fire, is said to now haunt the hotel. Facing competition from corporate-owned theme parks, the park added a jungle cruise ride and other new attractions in the 1960s. As trolley service had been discontinued, the park's management began to focus on directing automobile traffic to the park. Fairyland Forest, a walk-through attraction, was constructed across the highway from the park's main entrance. Using a combination of fairy tale characters and animals to help attract families and appeal to young children, many similar attractions existed across the country at that time. Although popular, the area eventually fell into neglect and closed in 1985 and was replaced with Camperland in 1986. Ownership changes and decline. By the 1990s, a series of ownership changes had taken their toll on the park. A 1974 takeover of the park by Dr. John and Mary Jean Winslow Flynn had saddled the park with $750,000 in debt and expansion slowed. Charles Flynn, longtime associate of New York City Mayor Ed Koch and son of Dr. John and Mary Jean, decided to leave politics and become actively involved in the family business. Initially, this change in management was able to invigorate the park. In the early 1980s, rides such as the Paratrooper and Yo-Yo were added. The waterfront was improved. Along the park's midway, a waterslide tower was added and proved popular. For most of its history, Conneaut Lake Park functioned as a real-life community within an amusement park, as local traffic and waterfront cottages were interspersed with the amusement rides. Park Avenue and Comstock Street, the park's main walking paths, were shared by both patrons and vehicles alike. Although bothersome at times, locals were proud of this arrangement's unique appeal. In an effort to remain competitive, the decision was made to enclose the park for the 1990 season. For the first time in its long history, admission would be charged. In a letter to customers explaining the changes, Flynn stated, Traditional parks are dropping like flies, and it's time we all realize that we have to take steps now and save our park before it's too late to do anything about it. The new gated park format, coupled with a rainy summer, led to a decline in attendance. In an effort to raise capital, several rides were sold off. After another disastrous season, a decision was announced: the park, with the exception of the water park, would be leveled and a new family entertainment complex would be built on the property. The new family entertainment complex would focus on special events, concerts, group picnics, and non-ride activities, such as batting cages, mazes, and sports activities. The Blue Streak roller coaster, which required an estimated $100,000 in repairs, would be scrapped. As the park's rides were auctioned off, a group of 4 local businessmen made a concerted effort to purchase as many of them as possible. This group went on to purchase the park from the Flynn family in an attempt to preserve it as a traditional amusement park. Although nearly $1 million was spent in upgrading and refurbishing the park, attendance continued to dwindle, in part due to a public perception that the park had closed altogether. In 1995, the owners filed for bankruptcy and the park did not open. However, by the 1996 season, a group called Summer Resorts, Incorporated, under the leadership of Gary Harris, completed a purchase of the park. Although Harris arrived at Conneaut Lake with a history of criminal charges, residents were optimistic that the park could be saved under his leadership. The park reopened on July 4, 1996, but new problems arose in 1997 when Harris was convicted of tax evasion. To help extricate himself from his legal difficulties, Harris gave the debt-ridden park to the Conneaut Lake community in 1997, but later filed a lawsuit claiming that he held a €99-a-year lease on the park grounds and retained ownership of several rides. When that lawsuit was lost in 2001, ownership reverted to a court-appointed trustee. Early 2000s and rebirth equals, the park began the new century under the oversight of a not-for-profit corporation, the trustees of Conneaut Lake Park. During this time, the park experienced a renewed interest, driven in part by roller coaster and amusement park enthusiast groups. Several of the park's rides, including the Devil's Den and Blue Streak roller coaster, were repaired by volunteers. In August 2010, the park received $50,000 in funds from a contest sponsored by Pepsi for use in restoring the Blue Streak. Several fires destroyed buildings on the property, including a 2008 fire that destroyed the Dreamland Ballroom and a fire on August 1, 2013 that destroyed the Dockside Restaurant and the beachfront building. Partial historical timeline 1890s, 1892, Exposition Park opens. 1900s, 1902, Figure 8 roller coaster opens. 1903, Hotel Conneaut opens. 1908, a large portion of the Midway, many hotels, a bowling alley and the park's ballroom are destroyed in a fire. 1909, Dreamland Ballroom opens, replacing the original ballroom lost in the 1908 fire. Scenic Railway roller coaster opens. 1920s, 1920, park is renamed Conneaut Lake Park. 1925, Tumble Bug Ride is installed. 1925, Temple of Music opens. 1930s and 1940s, 1935, Beach Club Bar opens. 1936, Figure 8 roller coaster closes. 1937, Scenic Railway roller coaster closes. 1938, Blue Streak roller coaster opens. 1943, fire destroys half of Hotel Conneaut. 1944, Hotel Conneaut remains closed. An investor group led by the local surgeon Dr. Harry Winslow purchases the park out of bankruptcy. 1945, Hotel Conneaut reopens with 150 of the 300 original rooms. 1946, Temple of Music is destroyed by fire. 1949, Tilt-A Whirl is installed, which is still in use at the park today. 1960s and 1970s, 1961, Funhouse opens in former bowling alley. Wild Mouse roller coaster opens. 1968, Devil's Den opens. 1973, Dracula's Cave opens. 1974, Dr. John Flynn and Mrs. Mary Jean Winslow Flynn, son-in-law and daughter of Dr. Winslow, buy out the other partners, saddling the park with $750,000 in debt. 1975, Funhouse closes. 1976, Hellhole Rotor Ride opens. 1980s and 1990s, 1981, Charles Winslow Flynn, son of Drive and Mrs. Flynn, takes over operation of the park. 1985, Dracula's Cave closes. 1986, Camperland opens. 1990, new front gate constructed. Wild Mouse roller coaster closes. 1992, Devil's Den is renamed Dr. Moriarty's Wild Ride. Also, in 1992 Conneaut Lake Park celebrates its 100th anniversary. At the end of the season it was announced that many rides would be removed and the Blue Streak roller coaster would be mothballed. Also a section of Midway buildings near the lake are demolished in an attempt to expand the festival grounds to allow for much larger festivals and concerts. The Hellhole Rotor Ride is removed. At the end of the season, the Flynn family sells the park. 1993, local businessmen purchase some of the rides at auction to keep Conneaut Lake Park as an amusement park. Management lost $125,000 in operations that season. 1994, lost $800,000. 1995, Conneaut Lake Park fails to open due to bankruptcy. 1996, Conneaut Lake Park is purchased by Gary Harris. Conneaut Lake Park reopens on July 4, however the Blue Streak did not reopen with the rest of the park. 1997, Conneaut Lake Park is changed to a not-for-profit, public trust. The Blue Streak roller coaster is renovated and the park purchases 4 rides from the now-closed Old Indiana Fun Park. The rides were the Super Roundup, Bumper Cars, Ranger and a Chance Turbo. The Turbo was never installed due to a dispute over ownership. An 8-tub model flying scooters were also added. It was originally believed these come from Old Indiana as well, however a picture which recently surfaced proves Old Indiana's flying scooters were a 10-tub model, not an 8-tub. Also, then current owner Gary Harris goes to prison for tax evasion. 1999, the Board of Trustees dwindled to 1 member, and Gene Rumsey and Bill Jordan become the court-appointed custodians of Conneaut Lake Park. The Conneaut Lake Park Management Group also begins to operate Conneaut Lake Park. Conneaut Lake's annual Fall Pumpkin Fest which began in 1990 is moved to the park. The event is an Oktoberfest-type celebration featuring craft and food booths. The park also purchases a roller-plane ride and opens it. 2000, on June 28 the current managers of the park were ousted and the park was closed for 4 days before the trustees assumed control. 2001, Bill Jordan is replaced by Herbert Brill as the court-appointed custodian of Conneaut Lake Park. Gene Rumsey and Mary Ellen Rebrassier manage Conneaut Lake Park for the season. Dr. Moriarty's Wild Ride renamed to Devil's Den. 2002, Blue Streak roller coaster is operated with original 1937 trains, putting the NAD Century Flyer trains from the 1960s into retirement. Park purchases and opens the Toboggan roller coaster. 2003, Park was approved to open the day before Labor Day when Lakeview Ford loaned Conneaut Lake Park the money it needed to open. The park is still operated by Herbert Brill, Gene Rumsey, and Mary Ellen Rebrassier. New Board of Trustees is formed on July 15. Park hosts first annual Holiday in the Park event in December 100-year celebration for Hotel Conneaut. Volunteers are invited to redecorate rooms under the Adopt a Room program at the hotel, uniquely personalizing each room. A book, The Ghosts of Hotel Conneaut and Conneaut Lake Park, is written, sparking ghost hunts, television coverage, and events such as the annual Spiritual Expo. Gene Rumsey resigns as park manager at the end of the season. 2004, Griffin Motors loans Conneaut Lake Park the money it needs to open. Mary Ellen Rebrassier, CEO, is replaced with Don Colton-Bohr on June 16. Herbert Brill, court-appointed custodian, is replaced by Leroy Stearns who takes over midsummer. Tim Cader resigns as chairman of the Board of Trustees and Abe Finton assumes the position. 2005, the park attempts to introduce a tiger animal attraction, but after a lengthy public protest from a Pittsburgh-based animal rights group, Voices for Animals, and including several thousand petition signatures from the park's patrons, it is withdrawn later in the season. Board of Trustees is ordered by Judge Vardaro to open for the season without borrowing any money. Don Kaltenborn resigns and more board members are added, including George Deschner, Dick Williams, David Gordon, and Terry Dermitz as chairman. Tom Kolak and Harold Thornton are hired as managers of Conneaut Lake Park. The park leases the beach club, Camperland, and games in order to get money to open park for the season. A new book, Images of America, Conneaut Lake Park, is published by Michael E. Costello and Arcadia Publishing. In August, the park, still under custody of the Crawford County Court, has its 12-member operating board dissolved for failure to file the required financial report 2 months earlier. The park management is awarded to a former school principal George Deschner and local Humane Society operator Leroy Stearns. 2006, the Flynn House, where the Flynn family lived when they owned the park, was demolished in a controlled burn. Conneaut Lake Institute begins its brick-by-brick fundraising campaign to raise funds to repair the park's miniature train ride. In order to open Conneaut Lake Park in 2006, the park borrows $250,000 against the sale of the Flynn House and 3.3 acres of valuable lakefront property. The yo-yo is finally dismantled after sitting idle for 3 years and is sold. Witch's Stew is reintroduced. The Bessemer railway system reopened to the public at noon on July 2. The park's historic Tumble Bug ride reopens to the public on July 8. Conneaut Lake Park continues to operate without a board of trustees. Deschner and Stearns announced that the park lost approximately $400,000 that season. In an attempt to pay off a large portion of the park's debt, Stearns tries to sell 3.6 acres of lakefront property. Also, the Ferris wheel closes. 2007, on May 22, 2007, it was announced that the resort would not open for the 2007 season due to lack of funds. The trustees of Conneaut Lake Park, Incorporated had earlier attempted to raise sufficient funds through the sale of tokens but were unsuccessful. The trustees then sought a 6-figure gift to open the park, but finding no donors, announced the park would not open. Heavily in debt, the park was unable to borrow the funds needed to open. On August 3, 2007, the Beach Club and the Down Under Bar and Restaurant opened to 5-days-a-week operations, with the possibility of the Hotel Conneaut being open at a later time. The amusement rides remained closed for the 2007 season. 2008, on February 1 the Dreamland Ballroom was destroyed in a massive fire. On April 6 the old bowling alley collapsed. On April 8, 2008, filmmakers of the 2008 production of The Road filmed several scenes of the park for the movie. Included in the movie was the rubble left from the Dreamland Ballroom and Bowling Alley, the Hotel Conneaut, and Boardwalk. 2009, the resort reopened on Memorial Day weekends with the Hotel Conneaut, Beach Club, Camperland, and Amusement Park. The amusement park opened with its entire roster of Kiddieland rides and adult rides including Paratrooper, Flying Scooters, Tilt-A-Whirl, Tumble Bug, Carousel, Skydiver, Devil's Den, Bumper Cars, Witch's Stew, Trabant, Bessemer Railway System, and Music Express. Splash City opened later in the summer. The hotel reopened under private ownership and a multi-year renovation project began, including the ballroom, office, apartments, storage area, and family units. Heat, air conditioning, and TVs were added to some guest rooms. Ghost tours and paranormal investigations went from occasional private casual affairs to more standardized public events. A&E's Paranormal State also did an episode on Hotel Conneaut's ghost stories. 2010, the park reopens again with all but 4 rides, the Blue Streak, the Salt and Pepper Shakers, the Toboggan and the Super Roundup. The hotel and the beach club opened as well. The Coaster Convention from ACE was held there on June 23. Arson fire destroys Kiddieland restrooms. It is believed to have been started by lighting toilet paper on fire and placing in the corners of the woman's side. Thursday, September 2, The Blue Streak reopened through Monday, September 6. The cost of each ride was $3 or unlimited rides if you donated $100 to the park. Also, the Skydiver ride closes and is taken out of the park completely. 2010s, 2011, the trustees of Conneaut Lake Park, Incorporated and Swanks Steel City Shows enter an agreement to assume operations for the 2011 season. Under this agreement, 4 new portable attractions are installed, which include the Jitterbug, Giant Slide, Go Gator, and Jumpin' Star. After Labor Day, Swanks Steel City Shows ended the agreement with the trustees of Conneaut Lake Park, Incorporated, and removed their attractions and equipment. The Rollo Plane ride is also removed from the park for renovation. As of 2015, the ride has not returned. 2013, a fire destroys the Dockside Restaurant and the beachfront building on August 1, 2013. On August 3, 2013, the new attraction Hostile Hostel, a walk-through dark ride, opened. 2014, the park opened in 2014 for its 122nd season on May 23. The park was undergoing the possibility of a tax sale in September, as the park owes more than $910,000 in overdue property taxes. Also, Toboggan is removed from the park in September 2014 and put up for sale. Witch's Stew, Music Express, and the Kiddie Carousel are also put up for sale. In December, after many failed attempts of trying to appeal a sheriff's sale of the park files for bankruptcy to stop the sale. 2015, the park opened in 2015 for its 123rd season on May 22 with operating days on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday plus Memorial Day and Labor Day. Despite Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings, the courts allowed the trustees to secure loans to open the park. As of May 2015, the park listed 11 operating rides plus 11 more in Kiddieland. Attractions. Other attractions at the park include these. Kiddieland there are 12 rides in Kiddieland. The following rides are in Kiddieland. The Kiddieland section of the park also offers pony rides. Gallery. References. External links. Official website, Mike's Historic Amusement Parks, Conneaut Lake Park page, CLP Junction, Images of America, Conneaut Lake Park at the Roller Coaster Database.